Who would have thought that the happiest place on Earth is also the creepiest? What many don't know is that Disney has a tremendous amount of ghost sightings. Now, whether or not you believe it is up to you, but employees and guests alike have sworn to have seen apparitions and experienced weird, unexplainable phenomenon. Coming up, stories of the ghosts that like to chill out on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, the spirits that ironically haunt the Haunted Mansion, and the other ghosts that haunt the most magical place on Earth, including one guest that never got off of Space Mountain. Join us as we uncover some of Disney's best ghost sightings and the stories behind them. The Haunted Mansion Ghosts. The Haunted Mansion seems to be the most appropriate place for a Disney spirit to hang out, and there's definitely no shortage of spooky stories that emerge from the allegedly haunted attraction, like the unknown little boy. We'll begin our spooky stories with that of a little boy that's said to haunt the Haunted Mansion. One day, a guest boarded the Haunted Mansion with a large night vision camera to document the ride and post pictures and video online. They hopped into the Doom buggy and then proceeded into the seemingly harmless Haunted Mansion, seeing nothing out of the ordinary while there. However, when the rider uploaded the pictures to a computer later on, they saw something that wasn't in their original footage. A little boy with his head peering around the side of one of the Doom buggies and looking back at the camera. The guest swears up and down that they never saw a little boy. And what's even spookier is that there wasn't even a child of that age within the 20 people in front of them. However, the picture reveals that the child is only a few cars ahead. In addition to this, the camera is a night vision infrared camera, meaning there's absolutely no light coming from it. So it just leaves the guest wondering why the little boy was even looking at them. It could be a bizarre coincidence, but we think it's more fun to believe that it's an actual Haunted Mansion ghost sighting. A bizarre memorial. Now, that little boy in the picture isn't the only child that loves to play around in the mansion, because there's another, and this one is a tad bit creepier. Back in 1994, a woman asked Disney if she could spread her deceased 7-year-old son's ashes inside the Haunted Mansion, because that was his favorite ride. Surprisingly, this is not an uncommon request, and the park even sells Disney-themed urns to prevent guests from trying to sneak their dead loved ones into the park to spread their ashes. Of course, they told her that she couldn't, but allowed the family some extra time on the ride to hold a memorial in his honor. During the memorial, however, the family began flinging what Disney assumed was his ashes off the sides of the Doom buggies. Disney quickly shut the ride down and cleaned up the mess, but they must have missed some, because guests and cast members began reporting bizarre incidents. One guest even claimed that a child was running around in the ballroom portion of the ride, but when they checked it out, there was no one to be found. Many riders have apparently seen a little boy hanging out by the ride's exit and sobbing, but when they offer him help, he either acts like he can't see them, or he disappears right before their eyes. Towards the end of the day, the 2-hour wait disappears, and employees are often alone, waiting for someone to show up to jump on the ride before closing time. And that's when one cast member claims that she heard a child laughing and assumed that a family was coming closer to board. However, no one ever came to hop on board the Doom buggy, and at the same time she also saw repeated movement out of the corner of her eye, felt a cold chill, and then actually felt a hand on her shoulder. When she turned around, no one was there. The woman darted from the attraction and refused to return to the Haunted Mansion. A ghostly employee. Now, unlike the eerie little boys that disrupt the Haunted Mansion ride, this next ghost might just prove to be a little more helpful. One woman and her family were boarding the Haunted Mansion when the loading process came to a standstill. With nothing to do, the woman just watched the 3 cast members do their jobs, one of which was a young man with light-colored hair. She would watch him look at a business card-sized piece of paper and then bend over as if he was trying to pick something up. But the scary part of it all is, he never came back up. In fact, he just disappeared and she never saw him again. She looked all around the attraction as they began to board but couldn't spot him. And that's when she asked her husband what he thought the worker was picking up. He didn't have a clue as to what she was even talking about and claimed that there were only 2 workers standing there when they boarded. And it all led her to believe that she had just entered a real haunted mansion. The Pirates of the Caribbean Ghosts. While the Haunted Mansion seems to be the most obvious place to find a ghost, the Pirates of the Caribbean ride is another popular spirit hotspot. And that's where we find George. George is definitely the most famous Pirates of the Caribbean spirit. And according to legend, a man named George, who worked as a construction worker in the early 1970s, helped to build the ride, but then died a tragic death on the job. While no one is exactly certain of his cause of death, there's no doubt that he's there. Every single day, one of the cast members tells George good morning and good night via the PA system, and there's a good reason for that. On the days that no one acknowledges George, the ride unexpectedly shuts down or even breaks. And if you happen to proclaim that you don't believe in George before boarding or while on the ride, there's a good chance that George is going to shut it down, leaving you stranded for a while. But that's not the only bizarre incident that happens on the regular. The empty control room makes phone calls. Workers hear footsteps when no one is around, and sometimes he even shows his face on the security cameras. Some guests say that they even feel a cold chill when they enter the room with the burning city, which in one story is said to be the room that George died in. George has also been spotted in various places on the ride, and one of the doors on the ride has even been unofficially named George's Door. So whether you believe in him or not, it's probably best to pretend like you do if you don't want to spend your day at Disney stuck on a boat inside the Pirates of the Caribbean. And as it turns out, there are a few other ghosts that have been seen roaming around inside this popular attraction. Now, remember the little boy that's often seen crying in the Haunted Mansion? Well, he often makes an appearance on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride as well. There's also another, much happier child that's been seen riding the boat on the security cameras by himself. But when the boat comes back to the boarding dock, there's no one inside. In addition to the children, a pair of women, known as the ladies, are also said to haunt the attraction. Supposedly, the women were riding in the front row when the boat went off the tracks and crashed, killing them both. And rumor has it that they make their presence known with unexplainable cold chills, along with the occasional ghostly appearance. But the ride isn't the only haunted part of the Pirates building. The gallery, which is an apartment directly above the Pirates ride, was built for Walt Disney's personal use, and he and a few other spirits are said to roam around the apartment from time to time. And of course, there are other ghost sightings around the park. While most of the famous ghosts are seen on just 2 of the park's popular rides, they aren't the only places that you can go ghost hunting. The Unamused Ghost. Now, when one individual boarded the dinosaur ride in the Animal Kingdom, an undistinguished older man sat down next to him. As the ride would progress, the man must have been bored, because unlike everyone else, he didn't react to anything. Not the bumps, the noises, or even the occasional jump scare mechanical dinosaur. Thinking he was just a strange old man, the rider got off the ride and headed to the photo booth to see everyone's reaction at the moment they had their picture taken. And that's when an eerie feeling came over the park patron. The old man looked like he had no eyes, just big black spots where they should have been. He also wasn't wearing any glasses of any sort, so there wasn't a glare. And on top of that, he wasn't even looking at the camera. He just kept staring straight ahead with the same unamused expression on his face. So, was this old man just a weirdo, or was he a ghost? You be the judge, and let me know in the comments below. Haunted dolls. Now, according to the word on the street, several Disney employees loved working at the It's a Small World ride so much that they never really left, even after they died. Allegedly, they try to run the show after hours, turning lights on and off, and making the dolls dance and sing, even though there's no audience there to watch it. Some employees even claim that the dolls switch places or disappear altogether, and this is just another reason not to want to hang out at Disney after hours. The Tower of Terror Bellhop. One of the employees that was hired to be a Tower of Terror bellhop died from a heart attack during his shift. And ever since, it's reported that an apparition of the bellhop has been seen on Platform D from time to time. He's also been known to flicker the lights and halt the ride when park employees are finishing up the last ride of the day. Now, we get that he loved his job, but isn't it just a little bit tricky to set up a direct deposit on the other side? The Space Mountain Hitchhiker. Now, if you ever find yourself sitting next to an empty seat on Space Mountain, it probably won't be empty for long. Back in the 1970s, a man actually died while riding Space Mountain, and he hasn't gotten off since. The large man with the red face and hair has been spotted buddying up with single riders, but disappears when the ride pulls back into the station. And I'll just tell you this, if I died doing what I loved, especially if it was as fun as Space Mountain, I'd probably never leave either. And of course, there's Disney himself. Some Disney guests have claimed to see the ghost of Walt Disney co-founder Roy Disney on Main Street, USA, and every time that he's spotted, he's smiling. Now, it's probably just his way of enjoying the fruits of his labor in the afterlife. So the next time that you're at Disney, keep your eyes peeled. These are just some of the ghost sightings and stories that we found floating around about Disney, but we're sure there are more out there. Have you ever encountered any of the ghosts on our list? Let me know about it in the comments below. And thanks for watching. The SS Valencia. The SS Valencia was an American steamship, and it met its fate on January 20th of 1906 off the coast of Pachena Bay. The ship left with 157 passengers headed toward Vancouver Island and made its voyage safely. But upon its return trip, it was tragedy. As it sailed off the coast of Pachena Bay, the ship would